Henry folded up the packing box and looked around the kitchen. He couldn't help but let a little pride show on his face at having eventually finished. That was the last box. They were finally all moved into their first real house as a family. Teresa had gone out to pick up some dinner, Chinese, from a takeout place that one of their new neighbors had mentioned, and some celebratory wine for later that evening. Henry imagined how, once their daughter Gabriella was asleep, that the wine might lead to Teresa and he revisiting the conversation they'd started that morning about christening their new home, surface by surface, and in varying degrees of undress. Henry was pulled out of his daydreaming revelry by the sound of Gabriella's voice coming from down the hall. Gabriella was precocious, as 4-year-olds can be, and Teresa had mentioned that their little one had seemingly entered into the imaginary friend stage of childhood that some kids do. She had heard Gabriella talking to an empty room on more than one occasion since they moved in. Henry smiled and walked down the hall toward his daughter's room, wishing to see such a precious moment for himself. Gabriella's imagination astounded him sometimes, with the stories she would make up and the questions she would ask. He paused at Gabriella's closed bedroom door and listened. "I don't have toys like that," she said matter-of-factly, "but I have a dragon named Hocus that you can play with." Henry's smile widened. "No." Henry thought maybe he could hear some rustling papers, as though maybe Gabriella was coloring with her new friend. "The girl's my mom, and the boy is my dad." Henry suppressed a giggle at the cuteness of the situation. "No, they are nice. They wouldn't do that." Henry's smile slightly faded. Gabriella's room beyond the closed door went quiet. Henry began to smell a strange scent through the door. He quickly opened Gabriella's bedroom door. His little girl looked up at Henry from what seemed to be pages from a magazine spread out in a small pile around her and smiled at him. "Hi, Daddy. Are you done?" She got up and walked over to Henry, hugging his leg. "Can we play a board game now?" Henry carefully took a small step back so that he could look down at her. "Gabriella, what is that smell? Did you get into your mother's perfumes again?" Gabriella's smile folded up into a look that showed she remembered getting into trouble for playing in her mother's things without permission, and she gave Henry a quick "no." Then she tilted her little head to the left and sniffed, followed by a tilt to the right and sniff. "What smell, Daddy?" Henry sniffed the room, but the smell was gone. He sniffed again to be sure. "Never mind. I heard you talking to someone, though, and thought—" Henry stopped himself. He actually didn't know what he'd been thinking or why he'd gotten so unnerved. "Oh," Gabriella said. "That's the boy who lives here. He plays with me sometimes." "Gabriella, you know that it's just you, me, and Mommy living here." Imaginary friends, to Henry, had suddenly become less precocious than, say, scary. The idea now made him feel that Gabriella was unsafe. Gabriella seemed to weigh this statement for a second, her little girl's mind allowing the truth of the situation. "Well, he used to live here before we did, I guess. Maybe he still has a key?" Henry didn't respond. He was the adult after all. No need to frighten his daughter with what he felt, particularly since he couldn't explain these sudden scared feelings. "He lives in our house with his mom. He said his dad used to be here too, but now he can't find him." Gabriella continued as she dug out the Candyland box from beneath a stack of books and toys. "He told me his mom has bad dreams in the daytime." The feeling of fear crept back over Henry. He looked down at the pages on the floor where Gabriella had been sitting. They were awful images of dead bodies taken from countless magazines and newspapers. All of the terrible things that humans can do to one another splayed on the floor like a mosaic of horror amidst his daughters Elmo and favorite Barbie. "Daddy?" Gabriella asked. Her face scrunched up quizzically as Henry felt the panic overwhelm him. "How come boys can turn blue?"